picture this for a second. Right now, in this brightly lit, roaring arena in Seoul, you've got a 19-year-old staring at a monitor.
Right, high stakes.
Extremely high.
Yeah.
And they are making, upwards of 400 complex, split-second decisions every single minute.
Which is just wild to even think about.
It's insane. Their hands are just a blur across the keyboard. Their eyes are tracking like a dozen different moving variables on screen. But inside their brain...
There's an alarm going off.
Exactly. This invisible biological alarm bell is just ringing. The fuel tank is totally empty, but, well, the game is still going.
Yeah, you can't just pause a life tournament.
You really can't.
Yeah.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. If you're joining us, it's because you're someone who doesn't just want to know what's happening in the world, you want to know the mechanics behind it.
You want to look under the hood.
Right. You want to find those hidden levers that make life just a little bit better. So welcome to you, the learner. Today our mission is to explore a massive, yet surprisingly quiet revolution happening right now.
And it's happening in some of the most high-performance communities on the planet.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at elite gamers. We're digging into how they fuel their focus and why the source material we're looking at today suggests that everything modern society thought it knew about staying sharp might actually be entirely backwards.
It really is a profound paradigm shift. And I want to set the context early here because while our sources today are heavily focused on the gaming world, the core physiological questions apply to everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone listening right now.
Right. Anyone who relies on their brain to execute tasks, whether you're coding a new app or writing a novel, managing a team, or just trying to survive a brutal afternoon of back-to-back meetings.
The dreaded 2 p.m. slump.
Exactly. You are constrained by the exact same biological limitations as that 19-year-old in the arena. We aren't just looking at what beverages people drink at their desks. We're examining the, fundamental biological nature of human energy.
Yeah, and our primary sources for this deep dive center on some really fascinating insights from Coach David Smile.
He's doing some incredible work.
He really is. He's this prominent figure in the high-performance space who has spent years helping creators, gamers, entrepreneurs completely overhaul how they manage their energy.
And through his work, we're going to break down this new trend that is rapidly replacing traditional stimulants in esports.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp the magnitude of what Coach Smile is identifying, we need an analogy. Think about your smartphone.
Oh, this is a great way to look at it.
Right. Consider how you treat that piece of hardware. You would never open up like 10 incredibly heavy, graphics-intensive apps, turn the screen brightness all the way to maximum.
And then expect it to run flawlessly for 6 hours straight.
On 1% battery.
Yeah.
Without ever genuinely plugging it into a wall. You just wouldn't do it.
No, you'd be setting yourself up for failure. If that phone started freezing or dimming or apps started crashing, you wouldn't blame the operating system.
You wouldn't say it's a bad phone.
Right, you'd recognize immediately that it simply lacks power. It needs a charge. Yet, when we look at our own cognitive endurance, our brain's capacity to keep functioning at a high level, we treat ourselves exactly like that dying smartphone.
We just keep swiping and expecting it to work.
Yeah. For decades, our foundational understanding of how to fix a low internal battery has been deeply flawed. We've been trying to force the machine to keep running without ever actually giving it the right type of electrical charge.
We've just been completely misdiagnosing the low battery warning. And to understand the alternative solution that Coach Smile and his community are championing, we have to first understand the environment where this problem is pushed to its absolute limit.
The daily reality of the modern competitive gamer.
Yeah, because the sheer endurance required in gaming today is staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about routine 3 to 6 hour practice sessions.
And that's just practice.
Right. We're talking about all-night grinds to climb the ranked ladder, high-stakes tournament brackets that last all weekend, marathon streaming sessions.
Where players not only have to perform at the top 1% of their skill bracket, but they also have to be highly verbal and entertaining for an audience the entire time.
Which is just exhausting to even think about.
It creates a really unique kind of biological crucible. If you look at traditional physical sports, say football or basketball, you have intense, explosive bursts of physical exertion.
But there are breaks.
Exactly. They're almost always followed by moments of rest, timeouts, or periods on the bench. Even in marathon running, the cognitive load doesn't fluctuate in the same way.
It's more of a steady rhythm.
Right. But the sheer density of split-second decision-making required in competitive gaming is relentless. A pro gamer is constantly processing rapidly changing visual information,
Coordinating microscopic motor movements with their hands.
tracking cooldown timers, opponent positions on a minimap, predicting enemy behavior, all simultaneously without a single break for hours on end.
And according to our sources, that relentless, unyielding cognitive processing leads to a highly predictable phenomenon. Gamers inevitably hit what the community calls the wall.
Ah, yes, the infamous wall.
It's incredibly consistent. It almost always happens somewhere between hour 2 and hour 4 of a session. And the sources list the symptoms with, like, surgical precision.
Let's hear them.
So your reaction time noticeably slows down. Your crosshair aim, which might have been laser precise in hour 1, suddenly gets sloppy and overcorrects.
Your high-level strategic decision-making just drops off a cliff.
Exactly. You start making basic mistakes. Your eyes actually feel physically heavy. Your brain gets clouded with fog, and your overall energy just bottoms out.
What's fascinating here is that we, both in gaming culture and in broader society, we frequently conflate this state with simply being sleepy or needing to wake up.
Yeah, we treat it like we just had a bad night's sleep.
But biologically, it's a very specific state known as mental fatigue. This isn't about physical exhaustion. It is the literal depletion of the biochemical resources your prefrontal cortex uses to maintain directed attention.
So it's not just feeling tired. You're actually out of fuel.
Yes. As your brain works, it consumes glucose and other resources rapidly. When a gamer hits that 2 to 4 hour mark, their brain is waving a massive biological red flag.
It's saying stop.
Right. It's communicating a clear physical limitation, essentially saying, I have exhausted the necessary chemical fuel required to continue performing this highly complex task.
But this brings up a paradox that just completely baffles me about gamer culture and, frankly, hustle culture in general.
The pushing through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You hit this wall, your eyes are heavy, your aim is terrible, but you don't stop. You keep playing, you queue up for another match.
Which is wild because you're technically still in the game, but you absolutely not performing.
You're basically just a warm body in the lobby, handing free points to the other team. Why do people just accept this? Why is this normalized as a badge of honor, this idea of the grind?
It's a huge competitive disadvantage.
Mathematically and clearly, you wouldn't see an Olympic sprinter pulling a hamstring, continuing to hobble down the track and calling it the grind.
No, of course not. But that normalization happens because, for a very long time, there hasn't been a mainstream understanding of how to properly address the biology of the brain.
We just didn't know any better.
Right. When a community normalizes the grind, they inevitably normalize the suffering that accompanies it. Gamers feel that cognitive drop-off, that mental fatigue, and because they don't understand the neuroscience, they misdiagnose the problem.
They think they just need a jolt.
Exactly. They assume the solution to mental fatigue is physiological arousal. They think, I'm slowing down, so I just need a massive jolt to speed my heart rate back up. I need to be hyped.
And that fundamental misdiagnosis of what the brain actually needs leads us directly to the massive elephant in the room, the energy drink.
Oh, yeah. The cans of hype.
The ubiquitous, brightly colored, aggressively branded, heavily marketed cans of hype. You cannot look at the gaming space without seeing them stacked in the background of every single stream.
They're everywhere. And they promise immediate focus.
They promise elite performance, and most importantly, they promise it right this second. Because when you hit that 2-hour wall and you're losing, you want an immediate fix.
You want to feel awake now, which is exactly why the energy drink is the ultimate false promise. It perfectly caters to that misdiagnosed desire for sudden physiological arousal.
But it doesn't actually fix the fatigue.
No, if you look at the biochemistry, it is fundamentally the wrong tool for the job of sustaining cognitive focus over long periods.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because Coach David Smile's teachings actually break down the exact biological sequence of what happens to your body when you try to solve complex mental fatigue by chugging a traditional energy drink.
It sets off a very specific chain reaction.
And it is entirely counterproductive to the mechanics of gaming.
Wow.
So let's walk through it. First, you get the massive caffeine spike. And instead of giving you focus, what does it do?
It gives you jittery aim.
Right. Your fine motor skills, the exact things you rely on, are instantly compromised because your central nervous system is suddenly overstimulated.
Let's look at the mechanism of why that happens. Because caffeine doesn't actually give you energy.
Wait, really? That's like the main reason people drink it.
I know, it's a huge misconception. What caffeine does is block the adenosine receptors in your brain. Adenosine is a byproduct of brain activity. It builds up the longer you're awake and working, creating sleep pressure.
Okay, so it makes you feel tired.
Right. Caffeine is structurally similar enough to adenosine that it acts like a fake key, fitting into those receptors and blocking the adenosine from attaching.
So you don't feel tired, but you haven't actually given your brain any new fuel.
Exactly. You've just cut the wire to the check engine light. And at the same time, the caffeine triggers the release of adrenaline. That's what causes the jitters.
Ah, so that's why my hands shake after a huge cup of coffee.
Yes, you lose the ability to make those crucial micro adjustments with your mouse because your nervous system is literally vibrating.
And then, right on the heels of that caffeine spike, you get the sugar surge. The sources note this creates a powerful illusion of energy, but it's completely artificial.
It spikes your blood glucose rapidly.
But it's empty fuel, right? It burns off almost immediately. And then you are hit with the full force of that adrenaline push we just mentioned.
Your body is essentially reacting chemically as if it's in physical danger.
It triggers a literal fight-or-flight response, which gives you a very short-term burst of intense, wide-eyed alertness.
But consider what fight or flight is evolutionarily designed for. It's designed to help you sprint away from a predator in the jungle.
Not sit in a chair and play a video game.
It is absolutely not designed for executing complex, multivariable strategic decisions over a 3-hour period. When adrenaline floods your system, your pupils dilate, but your peripheral awareness narrows. You get tunnel vision.
Oh, wow. So you literally see less of the screen.
Exactly. Your brain shifts from being proactive and strategic to being purely reactive and impulsive. In a high-level game where you need to track the entire map and anticipate enemy movements, becoming purely reactive is a death sentence for your performance.
And that leads to the inevitable conclusion of this biological sequence, the crash.
When that fake key finally falls out of the lock.
According to Coach Smile's breakdown, the crash leaves you with significantly worse focus than you had before you even cracked the can open. Because now all that adenosine that was building up in the background...
It just floods the receptors all at once.
Right. Plus, your blood sugar is plummeting. So you are left trapped in this vicious cycle. You drink it, you feel incredibly hyped and jittery, you crash hard.
So what's the logical next step when you're still in the tournament?
You drink another one,
Yeah.
and then you crash even harder.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we start to clearly see the critical flaw in how our modern culture approaches energy and productivity as a whole.
We're just constantly borrowing against tomorrow.
Yes. These synthetic drinks, these heavy stimulants, they do absolutely nothing to support the biological health of the brain. They provide zero structural support to the body's cells.
They're essentially a high-interest payday loan taken out against your future energy reserves.
And the interest rate is extortionate. As Coach Smile argues so effectively in our source material, energy drinks do not solve the focus problem for gamers, they actively create it.
By constantly spiking the nervous system into a state of panic and then letting it crash.
You are systematically degrading your baseline biological ability to concentrate.
It's the hype model. You're relying on hype instead of health, and the hype model is fundamentally broken. Which leads us to the paradigm shift we mentioned at the start.
The quiet revolution.
Yeah. The sources indicate this has been rapidly gaining ground in the gaming world over the last 12 to 18 months. Gamers, especially at the elite, professional tiers, are starting to realize that the tape over the check engine light is ruining their careers.
So they're actively moving away from stimulants.
And moving toward a concept called cellular activators.
This is the pivot point where the conversation finally shifts from masking the symptoms of fatigue to actually addressing the biological root cause of how the brain produces energy.
But I have to play devil's advocate here on behalf of the learner, because we have all been exposed to incredibly dense, manipulative marketing terminology in the wellness and supplement space.
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of noise out there.
Right. I read the sources, and honestly, the phrase cellular activation sounds suspiciously like the same marketing copy you'd see on an overpriced so-called healthy energy drink at, like, an organic grocery store.
Sure, it sounds buzzy.
How do we know this isn't just the placebo effect? Gamers want to feel focused. They drink something with a fancy name. They think they're focused. Mechanically, biologically, how is this actually any different from just drinking green tea instead of synthetic caffeine?
Are we really just swapping one buzzword for another?
Exactly.
That is exactly the kind of healthy skepticism we need to apply here. But if you dive into the biological mechanics outlined in the source material, the difference isn't just marketing. It is a fundamentally different metabolic pathway.
Okay, walk me through that.
A stimulant, even a naturally occurring one like the caffeine in green tea, if taken in high doses, still operates by forcing the central nervous system into an artificial state of alarm.
It still blocks the adenosine.
Right. It chemically forces adrenaline release and blocks the fatigue sensors. It is whipping a tired horse to make it run faster.
The horse isn't any stronger.
It's just in pain and running on fear. Cellular activation operates on a completely inverse premise.
So it's not whooping the horse, it's actually looking at what the horse is eating.
Precisely. It's providing better, more bioavailable oats. Instead of forcing the body to wake up through external chemical alarms, cellular activators provide specific, natural, plant-based compounds that your cells require to produce their own clean energy.
We're talking about optimizing the mitochondria, right?
Yes, the actual microscopic power plants inside your cells.
Uh-huh.
By providing the right nutritional precursors, these activators help the mitochondria synthesize ATP, or adenosine triphosphate.
Which is the literal energy currency of the cell.
Much more efficiently, yeah. It is supporting the way the human body was biologically evolved to function, rather than hacking it with an emergency override.
And because you aren't triggering that chemical emergency override, the subjective feeling, the actual experience of sitting at your desk, is completely different.
It's night and day.
The sources emphasize this heavily. With cellular activation, there is no massive heart rate spike. There are no hand jitters ruining your aim.
And crucially, because there was no artificial spike in the first place, there is no resulting crash.
You just don't hit a wall. What you get is clarity, a state of deep, calm focus, and the sustained mental endurance needed to genuinely play through hour 4 and hour 5 without your brain feeling like it's filled with cotton.
Think of it as the difference between setting off a firecracker in a dark room versus slowly turning up a high-quality dimmer switch.
I like that analogy.
The firecracker, the energy drink, gives you a blinding, aggressive flash of light and a deafening noise. It's violent and disruptive, and then it's instantly dark again, leaving your ears ringing.
And the dimmer switch?
The dimmer switch, which represents cellular activation, just smoothly and consistently illuminates the room so you can clearly and calmly see what you are doing for as long as you need to.
That dimmer switch analogy perfectly captures the feeling described in the sources. And moving from the underlying theory to the practical, real-world application, the text points to a very specific tool that Coach David Smile's community is heavily championing right now to achieve this cellular state.
It's known as the Photonic Activator.
Yes, the Photonic Activator is the practical, physical implementation of this cellular activation philosophy we've been breaking down.
And it's making huge waves.
It really is. Our sources note that this specific formula can be found at tangerine.fun or tangerizeme.com. And what makes this stand out so sharply within the gaming community is that it is a completely natural, clean, plant-based focus enhancer.
It is explicitly engineered to bypass the nervous system and work directly at that mitochondrial cellular level you just described.
Instead of pumping the bloodstream full of synthetic stimulants and sugar, it is delivering the raw materials the cells need to produce their own energy more efficiently.
And the downstream behavioral effects of that improved cellular efficiency are exactly what competitive gamers are desperately looking for, but constantly failing to find at the bottom of a traditional energy drink can.
Right. When your cells are consistently producing clean ATP, your brain naturally stays sharper, processes information faster, and maintains emotional regulation for much longer periods.
You don't get tilted as easily.
Exactly. And the direct feedback from the gaming community gathered in our sources really drives this home. It takes this abstract mitochondrial science and makes it highly relatable.
The quotes are pretty telling.
Let me read a couple of the specific ones from players who made the switch. One gamer said, "Man, I didn't realize how much energy drinks were messing me up until I stopped. The Photonic Activator keeps me focused without frying my nerves."
Notice the phrase frying my nerves.
Yeah, that stands out.
That isn't just slang. It is a highly accurate biological description of the jittery, overstimulated, adrenaline-soaked state caused by the stimulant loop we discussed earlier.
Because the central nervous system is literally exhausted from being constantly fired.
Exactly. It's fried.
And here is another quote from the source. "I can play longer, and I stay sharp the whole time. No crash, no fog." It really brings me back to our smartphone analogy from the beginning, but taking it a step further.
How so?
Well, for years, gamers have been trying to force their computer to run a massive, heavy program by just aggressively overclocking a failing overheating processor.
The energy drink is the overclocking.
Right. It works for 5 minutes until the whole system shuts down.
Yeah.
But utilizing something like the Photonic Activator and focusing purely on foundational cellular health, it's the equivalent of actually upgrading the physical hardware of the machine itself.
You upgrade the hardware, you install a better battery.
And suddenly the machine runs heavier loads smoother, naturally, without ever overheating.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize the mechanics at play. It perfectly synthesizes Coach Smile's core argument.
Gamers do not need more caffeine.
They certainly do not need more artificial hype or sugar. What they fundamentally require is better cellular support, because when your cells are properly nourished and activated, your brain performs at its absolute peak entirely naturally without the biological tax.
Yeah.
This raises an important question for all of us, not just the people grinding ranked matches. How often do we, in our own daily lives, default to artificial hype over genuine biological support?
Probably every single day.
How often do we reach for a quick, aggressive fix that actively degrades our long-term baseline performance simply because we don't understand the underlying mechanics of our own fatigue?
It's an incredibly easy trap to fall into, especially when the quick fixes are marketed so aggressively to us everywhere we look. I mean, they're at every checkout counter.
Oh, yeah. They're unavoidable.
But for those listening who are ready to break out of that trap, especially the gamers out there who want to ditch the vicious crash cycle and genuinely upgrade their biological hardware, the sources provided clear, actionable avenues.
You can actually do something about it.
You can explore the exact plant-based tool Coach Smile's community is currently utilizing, the Photonic Activator, by visiting tangerine.fun or tangerizeme.com.
And there's a direct line to them too, right?
Yes. The source material also notes that if you want a direct connection or personalized guidance on making the transition, you can DM the word focus to their channels to get exactly what you need.
Ultimately, what we are observing here is a profound shift in mindset as much as biology.
It really is.
It is the necessary evolution from relying on external stimulants to fostering internal cellular activation. It is the transition from volatile, hype-driven energy to clean, sustainable energy.
It's about abandoning endless crash cycles in favor of true, enduring cognitive performance.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? If we distill this entire deep dive down to its absolute core, the biggest takeaway for the learner is this. True, sustained mental clarity is not a state you can violently force your body into.
It does not come from a synthetic chemical spike.
It absolutely doesn't come from shocking your nervous system into a fake fight-or-flight panic. True, enduring clarity comes from respecting your biology and treating your body's cells correctly.
Giving them what they actually need.
Right. It comes from providing the right environment to generate clean energy from within. And I want to remind you, the listener, that this extends far beyond the server of a video game.
Far beyond it.
Whether you're trying to outplay an opponent in a competitive shooter, or you are prepping data for a massive, high-stakes corporate boardroom presentation.
Or you are simply trying to navigate a chaotic Tuesday afternoon without wanting to put your head down on your desk at 3 p.m.
We've all been there. The biological principles of mental fatigue and cellular support absolutely apply to you.
Because biology is entirely agnostic. It does not care whether you're holding a game controller, a steering wheel, or a laser pointer in a boardroom.
The cells work the same way.
The cellular mechanisms of ATP production and adenosine buildup remain identical. And looking closely at this trend, observing how the most elite, high-performance gamers are actively adapting their biology to gain an edge, leaves me with a final, unaddressed question for you to ponder.
Okay, let's hear it.
If natural, plant-based cellular activation is proving powerful enough to entirely replace the massive, multi-billion-dollar synthetic stimulant industry for elite, high-endurance gamers who push their brains to the absolute limit,
Yeah.
how might this exact same biological shift eventually make our modern culture's daily, desperate reliance on a morning pot of coffee and afternoon sugary snacks completely obsolete?
Wow. That is an incredible, provocative thought to end on. Imagine a society where the universal midday crash is just a bizarre relic of the
It's
past.
entirely possible.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Remember, you don't have to keep running your brain's hardware on 1% battery while slapping tape over the check engine light.
Plug into real, clean, cellular energy.
Exactly. Treat your biology right, and we will see you on the next one. Stay sharp.